Hey everyone. I'm starting a little bit early, but it's like 6 a.m. Pacific time, so I don't think anyone's going to even tune in. Okay, let me go through this ritual where I have to go on X and repost this. I guess Elon Musk still hasn't managed to hire a network engineer to fix this problem. Let's make sure it got posted. All right, thank you, Musk. You did something right. As usual, I'm just going to go over some things. I woke up this morning and David Gardner, who I'm going to do a podcast with later, he's the one that shared the news with me. I went to bed last night. I didn't know. I don't know when this conflict started, but it'll be funny when we get to it because the article he shared with me is presenting a different view. So Billboard Chris, I think he's a self-professed Zionist, which is fine. I mean, you can believe whatever you want, but he's very hardline pro-Israel, anti-Iran, and he posted the whole Trump speech. I'm not going to play it all, but it was a pretty good speech. People always say Trump sucks, like he's not a good orator. He doesn't have good public speaking skills, but at least I'm an engineer, and like I just want people to tell me the facts. None of this Obama talking in riddles. 15 minutes, I understand what he's saying. To the great people, great proud people of Iran, I say tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand. This is a theme. They're using this pretty effectively, and even the Iranian people, they want this. We'll get to it, but they're fed up with this regime. So I don't know if the regime. I just don't know where their support base is going to come from. Well, just to be clear, this isn't Billboard Chris is saying it. It's Trump. Stay sheltered. It's very dangerous outside. It's a narrative war that they're fighting. So the narrative right now going forward is Iran has slaughtered 50,000 of its own people, but we, the U.S. and Israel, we care about the sanctity of life. And Israel did this too. The narrative last time was Iran was carpet bombing the cities in Israel, but Israel was strategically targeting the military bases. Now, I'm not saying that they didn't. I'm just saying that was the narrative that's formed, and I think that's a narrative they're going with right now. And they recognize that they lost the narrative war last time because Iran came out and they put out a counter narrative that said, no, we're not the ones killing 50,000 people. Israel smuggled in assets, and the assets started firing on the people and on the police. The police didn't know on the crowd that what was happening was brutal. It was very brutal. It wasn't organic. It was basically done by Israel. So Iran was able to take control of the narrative. I keep using the word narrative. I'm not picking a side here. I'm just saying what happened. For many years, you've asked America's help, but you never got it. I spoke to my father the other day, and he called me up, and he was really angry. He's like, your pal Trump. He said he would have our backs. He said he would support us if we got on the streets, but he abandoned us. So even the Iranian people themselves want the U.S. to come in and drop bombs and topple this government, which is why I'm saying I don't have high hopes for this government. I don't know where their support base is coming from. No president was willing to do what I am willing to do tonight. Well, it's interesting you say that since you ran as the no forever war president, and you just got dragged into potentially a forever war. But we'll get into that. Now you have a president who is giving you what you want. So let's see how you respond. America's backing you with overwhelming strength and devastating force. There might be another reason he's doing this. In addition to getting the neocon vote, which is he needs that, like so many Lindsey Grahams, there are a lot of Iranians in America, and Iranians are like, white liberal women with liberal arts degrees. Uh, they just, they're uber liberal. Well, they're centrist, but the only thing that they care about is Iran. It's no matter how long they've been outside of their home country, they just want Iran to be returned back to its former glory. And I think the Democrats are the ones that, they presented themselves as being supportive of the Iranian people. We can't invade Iran. We mustn't harm a single Iranian soul, while the Republicans are like, yeah, let's invade Iran and blast it to the Stone Age. That was George W. Bush Jr.'s position. So they always hated the Republicans, but now the Iranian sentiment has changed for some reason. The Iranians have gotten more hardline. Maybe they're just fed up after 45 plus years of this regime, and into that steps the neocons. That could be a voter base. Warning to everyone: immigrant. That's the ugly side of immigration. People bring their problems with them. Now is the time to seize control of your destiny and to unleash the prosperous and glorious future that is close within your reach. This is the moment for action. Don't let it pass. This is what Eisenhower did to I think it was the Czechoslovakians. Was it Czechoslovakia or Hungary? When he said, we'll support you, we won't back down. And then he backed down, and then the Soviets came in and crushed them. And to this day, those people still haven't forgiven Eisenhower. So Trump he's got to be very careful. I don't care what he does overseas, but it's his domestic policy that impacts me indirectly as a Canadian. So he better not get stuck in a quagmire. Holy crap, that's a harder to pronounce name than mine. Shanaka Anselm Pereira. Iran just fired missiles at 5 countries simultaneously. Here is what actually happened to each of them. This one, I'm pretty sure America and Israel launched a surprise attack. Again, they were in the middle of negotiations, and technically the negotiations ended on Tuesday, but it's still the spirit of negotiations. And then America and Israel, to my understanding, launched a surprise attack, and this guy is presenting it as if Iran just, woke up one morning and the Ayatollah is like, yeah, feeling cute today. Maybe I'll bomb 5 countries. Bahrain is one of them. You got hit on the, whatever, you guys know the news. UAE, Qatar. I don't know why they attacked Qatar. Kuwait, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, potentially. Now, understanding what Iran just accomplished strategically and attempting to retaliate against Israel and America, the IRGC fired missiles at 6 sovereign nations in a single morning. So this is going to kind of change things, because it's harder now to say that Iran hasn't attacked any country before in the last 30 years or something. But on the other hand, they have said that if they get attacked, they will preemptively attack other countries. Take it as you will. But the narrative, it looks pretty bad. And these people, it depends the damage that's been done to these countries. If it's not extensive, they might just say, you know what, it's not worth it. We'll pretend like we're angry at Iran. We'll let American taxpayers burn their money as they get involved in this conflict. In attempting to retaliate against Israel and America, again, I'm not taking a side, but that's just bad reporting when you bury this halfway through the post. The IRGC fired missiles at 6 sovereign nations in a single morning. Not one of those nations attacked Iran. Again, I'm not taking the side of Iran, but if you're retaliating to strikes, how can you then in the same paragraph say not one of those nations attacked Iran? He's trying to thread a needle because he has a narrative. But the other thing is the IRGC, they've been labeled as a terrorist organization by so many nations, Canada as well. It's just overwhelming pressure on that country. I don't know if Russia and China can support them through this. Iran just converted every neutral and semi-neutral state in the Gulf into a potential co-belligerent. Yeah, we get your point. And the damage tells the real story. 1 civilian dead from debris. Man, that is definitely a real story. That's a lot of damage. Intercepts across 4 countries. No confirmed destruction of any U.S. military assets. No reported American casualties among 40,000. Did this guy just give this to ChatGPT? Did he not review this? Compare this to what Israel did this morning. Precision strikes on the IRGC Intelligence Directorate. Explosions near the Supreme Leader's office. 3 detonations in central Tehran confirmed by. I expect this to be the narrative control moving forward for the messaging. Again, they messed up kind of badly in the last one. They did not expect the Starlink to go down. They did not expect Iran to be able to put out a counter narrative. What they're doing here is saying, we are honorable people. We attack, strategic locations, whereas Iran is, it has no honor. It's attacking just wholesale civilian targets. It'll work, especially if they join with the Iranian expats in the U.S. and in the West. One side hit what it aimed at. The other side hit civilians with debris. Yeah, with debris. Again, I get it. He's trying to put out a narrative. And they told him, like, this guy's probably, he's being paid to do this, which is fine. Both sides lie in a war. But this is the story that he's telling. This is the asymmetry that will define the next 72 hours. It's always 72 hours. I guess that's the attention span now. Iran demonstrated intent to strike everywhere and capability to hit almost nothing. The Gulf states demonstrated they can defend themselves. Yeah, sure. And now those states must decide whether the country that just fired ballistic missiles across their borders gets to do it again. They will not let it happen again. Watch that the joint statement. Yeah. This is, man, who is this guy? He's completely unreliable. Independent analyst. He might be independent, but he's not objective. Ryan Saavedra. Breaking: the U.S. and Israel have blown up the office of the Supreme Leader of Iran. That's a shame. Iranians can be heard cheering in the strike in this video, which comes after Iran massacred tens of thousands of its own people last month. Trump appears to be going for regime change.
به تو زدن وای ای زدن به تو زدن
Sounds like a fat kid hyperventilating after going up a flight of stairs. So again, I've heard both sides from people like Alistair Crook and Colonel Douglas McGregor. They take the view that Israel sent assets into the country to destabilize it in the last conflict. So first they did the currency collapse. They manufactured that. Then they activated their assets through Starlink. And these assets started firing on civilians, blaming it on the security forces, hoping that the civilians would attack the security forces. And then they fired on the security forces and causing the security forces to fire on the civilians. And that's what caused the casualties. And they were nowhere near as high as 50,000. I've also talked to my friends in the country, and they say what's happened is they brought in these, like, basically what they did to us in Ottawa, where they brought in mercenaries, they did the same, but their mercenaries are like above and beyond. These are hardened terrorists from somewhere in Iraq region. I don't know if they're Kurds or whatever. They brought these mercenary soldiers / terrorists, and they started just killing people with impunity. And like the stories I heard or I was told, like they beat some woman until she's unconscious, and then they put 2 bullets in her head just for good measure. And they say that there are 50,000 civilian casualties, and other horrific stories. I don't. Again, I'm not saying one is true, one the other one isn't. But they said that they paid a bounty for every single civilian that they killed, and I guess they had to show proof of death. So they would, if they injured someone, they would go into the hospital, they'd drag him out, kill him, and then go and collect their bounty. Sounds a little over the top for me, but that's what the civilians in Iran are telling me. I guess you could say my sources. Hey, Rogue Spear, we got one guy tuning in. Yes, the world is at war. Yeah, I'm not. I'm a big fan of Donald Trump's domestic policy. I'm really sad that he's getting dragged into these foreign conflicts, so that when he got dragged into the foreign conflict in Venezuela, he executed it well. And I think he knew what he was doing. He didn't really get dragged into it. And he did a good job staying out of Ukraine. Israel is where he's weak domestically. That's where his bases can point and say, he's in the Zionist pocket. I'm not saying he is. But I think they're using that as a pressure point. They, like King Charles, Mark Carney, all of these European globalists, and they're probably going to Netanyahu. They're like, listen, this is good for both of us. You'll get Donald Trump in, and he'll help you deal with Iran. We'll get Donald Trump in, and we'll destabilize his domestic policy in America. That's my sense. All right, let's see. Where was I? Yeah, so that's, again, I'm not saying Colonel McGregor is right or the civilians in Iran are right, but there's a disconnect. And ultimately, I think there's more civilians, there's more neocons and civilians and Iranian expats supporting this regime change than there are people like McGregor and Alistair Crook. And now Trump's gotten dragged into a war. I mean, I don't really have a dog in this fight. I don't live in Iran. I don't go back to Iran. I just pray that this is over in 1, 2, 3 days, a week at most, and the regime is toppled, so that Trump can come home and proclaim that he's basically a god, and then ram through his domestic policy. Here's Mr. Randy Hillier. I had him on Thursday. I was talking to him. He is a staunch anti-Zionist, and he's more on the side of Iran simply because he doesn't support Zionism, globalism, imperialism. Once again, while negotiations are underway, Israel and no more wars, Trump have launched a full-scale war against Iran. He's very critical of Trump. In return, Iranian missiles are impacting on both Israel and U.S. military bases.
Fuck me. Bro. Oh shit! Oh fuck! Oh shit! Oh! Oh shit! Oh fuck!
Great video work.
Oh my god! Oh,
dude, stitch it together.
Dude, fuck me. A fucking missile actually got through. Oh, there's more. I gotta get the fuck out of here.
Man, that's I would have expected more from an American sailor. Maybe it's a commercial sailor. Like he's panicking over a missile dropped far away. I mean, I would panic, but I'm not in the military. Yeah, it's a bad look for it, but it's amazing how much the world has changed. When Trump first did this in the last conflict, it was in the middle of negotiations, and the world was in an uproar. They're like, you can't, nobody will trust us ever again if we pretend to negotiate in good faith and then get our ally to attack. Well, that ship has sailed, and we're in uncharted waters now, and I guess this is the new normal, where you lull people into negotiations and then you attack them. And I'm guessing Iran was prepared this time. I don't know. Like, I don't know what what's next. Like, you're going to invite a head of state to your country and then you blow their plane out of the sky. This is going to escalate. Abu Dhabi city center struck by missiles. Iran has fired on everyone. This is the end of the regime. It could be. Abu Dhabi sucks, by the way. It's such a bleak city. Yeah, great video footage. No, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if this has ever happened before, where they attacked so many civilian parts of these neighbors. It's been confirmed the victims of the president Trump is fully exonerated of Epstein wrongdoing. Democrats can't believe it. The Epstein victims have exonerated President Trump. Well, that's good for his domestic policy.
From all the evidence I've seen, he's been exonerated for a long time. Well, we'll discuss that as we move forward. Obviously, we've got more people to bring in, and we'll see if any new evidence arises. But right now, I haven't seen anything. And if anybody
can I just say this? The Epstein victims have exonerated President Trump. This is a trope that you guys are, a rabbit hole you guys are going down, but he has been exonerated over and over again by Epstein victims. We need to get all the information on co-conspirators. We still don't even have the names of all the co-conspirators because the Southern District of New York is hiding that information by redacting those names. And so
wait, just real quick, if I can also.
She sucked all the oxygen out of the room. The reason I put this up is now all attention is going to be shifted from the Epstein files, which I was kind of hoping would tank the globalist movement in the Democrat Party. Now it's just going to move to Iran. I don't know what's going to happen with this. Also, Lula is, she's looking like she's aged a bit. She's not the same attractive Lula there was before. Ravages of time. My good friend JP, no matter who the Americans vote for, they end up with John McCain. That's a good one, yeah. I pray this all happens as quickly as possible with the least amount of casualties. It's crazy. I mean, I don't think Donald Trump is a bad person like Dick Cheney was, or even George Bush Jr. I think he's in between a rock and a hard place. If he doesn't give the neocons what they want, I think they've threatened to withhold donations, funding for all of the Republicans down ballot. I did a live stream with Jason James yesterday, and I told him, like, it's very easy to just blame one person, like you like the leader. It's really disingenuous. We want to save our country, and the extent of energy we want to put into it is 1 hour every 4 years We vote at the ballot box and we say, go forth and save the country. Now I'm going to go watch porn and Netflix. And the system is designed so that nobody can really fix the system. Like Donald Trump it's a pay-to-play system in the U.S., and there's a lot of money, obviously, in the Israel camp with AIPAC, but there's a lot of money all over the place. Like the oil lobby is another one, the teachers union is another one, and he's got to play nice with these people. The neocons I can't stand the neocons. I think they're trash. I think we should kick them over to the left and at least let them deal with them. They can take their money and power and voting block, but I don't want to have anything to do with these people. This is a statement from Prime Minister Carney, and it's a really good statement, whoever wrote it. The Canadian government is closely following Iran-related hostilities throughout the Middle East and urges all Canadians in Iran to shelter in place. Shelter. That's the second time I've heard that. Canadians in the wider region should follow local advice and take all necessary precautions. Canada's position remains clear. The Islamic Republic of Iran is the principal source of instability and terror throughout the Middle East, has one of the world's worst human rights records, and must never be allowed to obtain or develop nuclear weapons. Okay, that's just like the nail in the coffin, because it just said it's a source of instability and terror. So he just labeled them as terrorists, and Canada won't come in to help them. Worst human rights records. It does have a very bad human rights records. Like it's impossible to deny that. And must never be allowed to develop nuclear weapons. That's another narrative that's forming. It's just, before this thing kicked off, like everybody was saying that this was a war started by Israel. Like the demands that were made of Iran, obviously no enrichment of uranium whatsoever, but they also wanted them to halt their ballistic missile program. They're trying to disarm Iran. This is not about regime change. This is about disarming Iran as a potential adversary to Israel, and then preferably splitting it into multiple smaller countries that are fighting with each other, but not with Israel. And I think Israel will succeed because Iranians don't care at this point. Their enemy is the Islamic Republic of Iran. It's not this globalist cabal that I talk about, obviously, but people far more intelligent than me, like Colonel Douglas McGregor does, Tom Luongo does, Alex Craner does. It's sad. I think Iran's going to fall. Canada and our international partners have consistently called upon the Iranian regime to end its nuclear program, including the 2025 G7 Leaders Summit in Kansas, let's just call it. And with the United Nations, their imposition of sanctions in September. That paragraph sucked. Despite diplomatic efforts, Iran has neither fully dismantled its nuclear program, halted all enrichment activities, nor ended its support for the regional terrorist proxy groups. Canada stands with the Iranian people in their long and courageous struggle against Iran's oppressive regime. Canada has listed the IRGC as a terrorist entity and has sanctioned 256 Iranian entities and 222 individuals in response to the regime's repression and its violence both against its own people and persistently beyond its borders. Canada reaffirms Israel's right to defend itself and ensure the security of its people. I don't know why Carney is saying this. This is not really a liberal position. It's definitely not an NDP position. Maybe he's trying to poach some votes from the conservative side. This is the Conservative Party, the hardcore pro-Israel position. Maybe in addition to that, or alternatively, they're trying to get the Iranian vote, but I don't think there's that many Iranians in Canada. Like they're not a homogenous voting bloc. Or maybe he's trying to get on the good side of Donald Trump. But it's very strange, considering that Carney has blocked Trump at every other stage. Canada supports the United States acting to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon and to prevent its regime from further threatening international peace and security. The Canadian government urges the protection of all civilians in this conflict. We will take all possible measures to protect our nationals and Canadian diplomatic missions throughout the region. Another reason that this is a very good speech. Whoever wrote this did a good job, or the statement. Not sure why it's in Mumbai, India, but another reason that he's saying this, it might be because he's already inflicted the damage on the country that he originally intended, Mark Carney, through Justin Trudeau. So through Justin Trudeau, they've destroyed the sense of nationalism. They've unleashed transgenderism and LGBTQ trans ideology, and they still have that. I mean, they can still use that as a destabilizing force and to keep us distracted while we're fighting these people that want to go into schools and, I don't know, molest children and transition children. They've got the teachers union. So he's done enough damage. And now I think he wants to rebrand the image of the Liberal Party back to what it was before Trudeau came in and tarnished it. And I don't know why he's doing that, because the only people that care about that are the boomers, and they're dying off as a voting bloc. So if you listen to the boomers, they're the ones that are criticizing, where the Liberal Party's gone in Canada. But in the U.S., you have like Alistair Crook and Professor Mersheimer. These are boomers who don't like the way Donald Trump speaks, and they think longingly of a time when you had, much better presidents like Obama and George H.W. Bush. Like, these are wonderful people with great human rights records. They're whitewashing history. They're refusing to accept that their actions led to the problem that we're in right now. They voted in people in a nice suit who spoke softly, but then carried a massive stick and bombed the shit out of civilian populations. This is funny. So this, come on, up you go. So he puts this out last night, 11:39. What is this, Pacific time? I don't know what time zone I'm in. What are we doing, man? I think that was the start of the war. And then Harry Sisson, whoever this guy is, a Democrat, says, "This, you dumbass. For what it's worth, I didn't watch this debate, just as I didn't watch the Biden one, because the end of the First Amendment and the breaking of 25 years of peace in not doing political prosecutions of your opponent means this election to me is not up for debate. Trump 2024. So he voted for Trump, and now he's saying, like, what the hell are we doing, man? He's like, is this you dumbass? Did I stutter, bitch? Mike Benz is one of only two people that's a voice of reason right now. We'll get to the second one. Actually, let me go. Is there another Mike Benz one, or is this the one? There's a lot of comments. I think if we go in here. Crippling one of China's two most important allies and flipping it back to the Western alliance as it was under the Shah, liberating the Iranian people. This is not Iraq or Afghanistan. The people of Iran want intervention, and it furthers U.S. interests. That's true. This is not Iraq or Afghanistan. But it's kind of missing the point. The people have been put under tremendous pressure because we had a puppet king, and they overthrew the puppet king, and the people who overthrew him promised free energy, free water, free education, free healthcare. Nobody will have to work. Everybody will be happy. And then they couldn't deliver on any of that, and they delivered absolute tyranny. But now, after 45 years of this, instability, the people have had enough. They're like, we'd rather have America. They don't give a damn about the geopolitics. They're like, Peyman, screw you pontificating about how we need Russia and China to counteract the single hegemon as the U.S. Like, we just want to be able to survive without getting shot at in the streets. Mike Benz, I hope China's response to all this has been thoroughly and accurately war gamed. China pledged $400 billion in investment there, and while I see the strategic logic of preemption, it's hard to imagine they sit back idly. Even indirectly, I could see them basically militarizing the Belt and Road now. Yeah. So for people that don't know, Iran it's got strategic importance because Russia wants to move oil north-south, and China wants to move trade routes east-west through Iran, and the West wants to pick that off. So I think it's actually just America, the hardliner sovereigntists in America. They want to pick that off, and I think Venezuela was part of that. They didn't want China to build up a strategic petroleum reserve. They're building up their merchant navy or whatever it's called. And this is just they're trying to pick a piece off of the chessboard. What Mike Benz is saying is, guys, like, one day Trump's luck is going to run out. This guy honestly, I think Mike Benz more than anybody was responsible for getting Trump elected. He's the guy that was out there every day talking about USAID. Maybe not getting elected, but when they got in, the first thing that they did was remove USAID. And they couldn't have done that if Mike Benz didn't invest a year of his life expertly explaining in layman's terms what USAID is. Otherwise, people will be like, what the hell is Trump doing? Who funded Iran's nuclear program? Obama, $150 billion. Biden, $16 billion. Yeah, there's a lot of narrative, counter narrative. Saving the world, 47 years of Iran attacking Americans, our allies. Pray for a swift and quick victory. Cleaning up your mess from 1979. U.S. had extensive contact. Yeah, so this is a pro-IRGC position, I guess, or Islamic. Freeing an entire country from a satanic regime. I have to admit, like, it is a satanic regime. After talking to some of my friends in Iran, Iran is very similar to Canada. You know, we have debt, they have a lot of debt. We have inflation, they have a lot of inflation. Our inflation has resulted in housing being used as a hedge against inflation. Their hyperinflation has resulted in housing and even automobiles to be used as a hedge against inflation. We have cartels like oligopolies that control almost everything. They have, you know, our oligopolies that control, well, one monopoly, the IRGC, they control everything. We have lawlessness in our courts. They have almost like no law in their courts whatsoever. Where things differ is in Iran, there is no legitimacy. So the people that they elect, they've already been vetted. They've been pre-selected by the supreme leader who has ultimate authority. And the supreme leader can just let any one of them go. And they know that nothing ever changes. There is no legitimacy, which is why they're rallying behind the US, hoping that they'll attack Iran. Canada, we have the appearance of legitimacy, where it appears that you can vote and you vote in change. Nothing really changes. You complain, but you're like, well, I guess it is what it is. We tried. At least we have a democracy. That's the magic word. The word democracy means the appearance or illusion of legitimacy. The branding your country as a democratic nation, it applies like a veneer of legitimacy to it. Yay, one more. One more godless woman. What if they started a war and nobody showed up to do the killing? I don't know. Who do you mean they? If the U.S. started a war and the Iranians didn't show up to do the killing, or the soldiers didn't show up? If you can clarify, I'll answer your question. Whatever it is, it ain't this spirit anymore. Remember that I predicted a long time ago that President Obama will attack Iran because of his inability to negotiate properly. Every president, every candidate makes promises on the campaign trail that they don't keep. Trump has made a couple. Like, he's promised to split up the FBI, to move it out of Washington, and then right after Butler, Pennsylvania, all of that died down suspiciously, immediately, abruptly. He said he would tackle the deep state, and I still think he is. I think that's what the Epstein dumps were. I think he's working with the military, that because it's under the military is the only institution I think that hasn't fully been corrupted. If you remember, they tried to do it during the Biden administration, where they were firing a whole bunch of military personnel that came out and they said something's going on, like they're bringing all this trans crap into the military. So it's unlike Canada, their military is still somewhat intact. Doge is another one. Wait for it. The CIA, after being blamed by Mike Pence for the 1 millionth time. Yeah, there's a lot of people that hate Mike Pence. They're probably paid, but anyway. So yeah, that's Mike Pence. He's one of the only ones that's pointing out, like, why are we doing this? Here's a general sentiment from the Iranian community. I am an Iranian expat community. I'm an Iranian, and I would like to ask you to pray for the U.S. forces and the Iranian people, not the Ayatollah's regime. Long live the people of Iran. God bless the United States of America. People underestimate how much the Iranian people hate their own government. It's kind of like Canada. Like, we hate our government here, at least the ones of us that are awake. Another one from Mr. Hillier. It appears U.S. bases in the Gulf are Iran's first priority, and their missiles are getting through air defense systems. Many weapons and personnel have been evacuated from these bases. However, there remain important command, control, and logistic hubs. Great video. Yeah. I mean, the optimist in me is saying maybe Trump used this as an excuse to remove assets from the Middle East and just abandon the Middle East altogether and just consolidate in North America. But I don't think I'm that lucky. Let's listen to this.
There should exist a sacred trust between America's institutions and our warriors. It should be a trust that demands we develop our finest military leaders with the highest standards, so that they are equipped to fight and win our nation's wars with absolute lethality, from basic training to the halls of higher education. That said, our senior service colleges have always been expected to act in the interest of this principle, to transform our senior warfighters into strategic thinkers, capable of mastering the complexities of modern warfare and leading our joint force to victory at every echelon. Unfortunately, this sacred trust has been broken in this military's professional military education system. It's been poisoned from within by a class of so-called elite universities who've abused their privilege and access to this department and utterly betrayed their purpose.
I think he's talking about Ivy League, Yale, Columbia, Brown, MIT, Princeton. The big one that Trump targeted early on, and my economic advisor was telling me about this, was London School of Economics, LSE. These guys come out of LSE, they're taught hardcore Keynesian economics, and then that just leads to socialism. And if Trump wants to, what he's trying to do is basically fundamentally change America. Like, this is what Obama said he would do. He's like, I want to fundamentally change America. And I to me, that was just code for more socialism. What Trump is trying to do is fundamentally change America, less socialism. It can lead to other problems like more, monopolies or these billionaire class. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's also, he wants to go back to the concept of the American Republic, like this, free speech, First Amendment, Second Amendment. And the way you do that is by targeting all of these centers that the Democrats have full control over. Let's continue.
For decades, the Ivy League and similar institutions have gorged themselves on a trust fund of American taxpayer dollars, only to become factories of anti-American resentment and military disdain. They've taken our best and brightest, the men and women who pledged their lives to this nation, and subjected them to a curriculum of contempt.
It's really infiltration from within. If you read the National Security Strategy document they released in November, they're talking about nationalism. They're talking about the family unit. They're talking about onshoring, reshoring industry, building up a manufacturing base. They're talking about helping the nation heal. And you can't do that if you have these institutions. They're basically brainwashing institutions. Kids go in, woke leftists come out, and they're guaranteed voter base, and they send them over to the urban centers because they don't have life skills. These are carpenters, welders, farmers, bricklayers. These are people like me, with a computer science degree. If I'm not in an urban center, that computer science degree is not going to I can't build shit with that unless I'm part of a big corporation. Technically I could do a website, but even that it's impossible nowadays.
They've replaced the study of victory and pragmatic realism with the promotion of wokeness and weakness. They've traded true intellectual rigor for radical dogma, sacrificing free expression for the suffocating confines of leftist ideology. What is the purpose, you may ask, of investing in an education that teaches our warriors to despise the very nation they swore to defend? What's the value of a degree that seeks to hollow out their warrior ethos and replace it with a creed of globalist submission? The answer...
Globalist, there's the key word. A lot of people don't like, what's his face, Pete Hegseth. And I'm sure there are criticisms, like his military record's maybe not that great. He's not a Rhodes Scholar or whatever. But his job is to sell this vision for a new American man, get away from men and women's dresses, get away from transgenderism. They are fighting back in the US. Like in Canada, first of all, we don't have the stomach for this stuff, but also nobody's really pushing back against transgenderism. It's just starting now. But in the US, they'll go out and they'll say, this is a mental illness. These are flights of fancy. Like, they'll say this stuff in the US. So that they have way more men, and they have a warrior culture. That's what he's referring to.
The answer is simple. There is none. Let's be brutally honest about how we define our terms here. This is not education, it's indoctrination. It's a calculated, targeted assault on the core of our fighting force, and it is a betrayal that we will no longer tolerate. The Department of War is finished subsidizing the corruption of our own uniformed class. We're done paying for the privilege of our enemy's wicked ideologies to be taught to our future leaders. We've had enough.
I'm telling you, this is this is in response to what Biden tried to do, where they tried to like induce wokeness into the military. They brought a whole bunch of transgendered people into the military, and he gave a beautiful speech once. He goes, "We're done with tampons in men's bathrooms. We're done with pronouns. We're done with men and women's dresses." He goes, "We're done with all of that shit," and that's his job. Like he's a salesman for this new vision for America. If people want to criticize his military record, that's fine, but I don't think that's his job. I know he's the Secretary of War, but his principal job is to pave the path for a future America away from this absurdity.
We demand that senior service colleges work to sharpen our warfighters on genuine national security issues, not social justice activism. We demand curriculums grounded in the founding principles of this republic, principles that champion the enduring ideals of peace through strength and putting American interests first. We demand universities that invest back into our nation's prosperity rather than our greatest adversaries. It's common sense.
He's talking about China.
No longer will we sit back and treat these woke breeding grounds of toxic indoctrination as valid centers of so-called intellectual curiosity. We cannot and will not continue to send our most capable officers, senior officers, into graduate programs that undermine the very values they have sworn to uphold. That's why today, just like we did with Harvard, I'm ordering the complete and immediate cancellation of all Department of War attendance at institutions like Princeton, Columbia, MIT, Brown, Yale, and many others, starting next academic year, 2026-2027. Furthermore, we're going to hold ourselves accountable as well. In the coming days, I will direct a formal top-to-bottom review of our own internal war colleges, ensuring they are once again bastions of strategic thought, wholly dedicated to the singular mission of developing the most lethal and effective leaders and warfighters the world has ever known.
I think they're panicking because they look at Russia, all the soldiers are men, all of them are focused on killing the enemy. And then you look at what's happened in America, at least under Biden. They're letting transgender people into the military. They're putting tampons in the military. Putting tampons in the men's bathroom in the military, that has such a devastating effect. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the number one reason why so many Canadians have turned their back on the CIF up here. They're like, what the hell? Like, we put our lives on the line for this country, and you're pushing your garbage ideology in here, and you're trying to indoctrinate us? Like, F you. And they just left.
As a final message to our warriors, the Ivy League faculty lounges may loathe you. The so-called elite of academia may mock your patriotism and disdain your sacrifice. But never forget that we, the War Department, have your back. The American people have your back. And President Trump has your back always.
Yeah, the renaming of the Department of War is another slight at the globalists, because that's what it used to be called. And then after World War II, they renamed it the Department of Defense, but they just kept on, going and starting wars. So now they're saying we're going to, speak truth to power. I don't know if it's going to survive if you get another leftist Democrat party that comes in. And, not all Republicans have the spine that Trump does, but maybe he's changed that. I really like Pete Hegseth on many of the things that he says. What one more about this? They, the governments of the world, because they are not the humans that are doing the killing. It's people that do the killing. War equals water, air, resources. Yeah, all wars are banker wars. If there was no profit in war, we wouldn't be going to war. But there is, and the people are stupid, and they get behind their team colors. It's so refreshing after all the transanity. Yeah, I saw a whole bunch of videos this morning. I didn't tab them because I'm trying not to get involved in the culture war. You call out transgenderism, and then people on the right go nuts. They're calling for the death of all transgender people, and the people on the left, they're always nuts. I'm trying not to fuel that, but it's really hard, man. Like, there are only two genders. They're trying to make us believe something that's not true. Here's a guy. I don't know who he is. 80,000 followers. Board certified doctor. I'm guessing an expat living in the West. 47 years ago, I stood at a window in Tehran as a 3-year-old boy smelling burning tires and hearing the chants that would steal my country. I didn't have word for what was happening. Today, I'm watching smoke rise over the same city, but this time the smoke is not the end of Iran. It is, God willing, the beginning of our resurrection. Yeah, this is the sentiment of most of the people in Iran, most of the expat Iranians. You can't fight what the people want. Several weeks ago, I wrote that in that fever of the 1975 was finally breaking. I never imagined I would wake up to see that fever confronted so directly. Here we go. He's reiterating the narrative. Israel, with clear support from the United States, has launched a preemptive strike deep into Tehran against the regime's military machine. Explosions in the capital, military targets hit, the IRGC's auras of invincibility, already cracked, is shattering in real time. This time it might happen. They just don't have the support of the people. Going over the atrocities of the regime, armed and cheered October 7th, murdered tens of thousands of its own sons who dared to walk peacefully, gouges out the eyes of young women for the crime of wearing makeup. That's horrific. Hangs teenagers from cranes for posting a tweet. Well, if it's a really shitty tweet, I mean, I could understand that. Exports terror, poverty, and darkness into every corner it can reach, including the U.S. To the brave pilots and special operatives of the Israeli Air Force and the men and women of the United States military now carrying out this mission, I pray for you with everything I have. Everybody's praying for everyone. It's really interesting. The Iranians support Israel and they hate Palestine. I think this is one of those the enemy of my enemy is my friend. They hate their government so much. They're just fed up with it. They don't care how they get them out. They just want them out. And he goes on with another poetic story. So this is a Leighton Gray, a friend of mine, and he's I don't know if we're going to play the whole thing. Yeah, I don't want to play a 6-minute video.
Prepared over 130 million American boys to make moral and ethical choices, not just during.
So let's just read this. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth reveals that after immense pressure, Scouting America, formerly the Boy Scouts, has caved to demands. They go back to separating males and females in showers. I can't believe they were in the same shower together. These are children, right? Showers, tents, and intimate spaces. Jesus. They're also overturning woke DEI policies. Boom, this is common sense. Scouting America will modify its policies to make clear the membership will be based solely on biological sex at birth and not gender identity. Scouting will also make clear that biological boys and girls will not be able to occupy. You know, this is all great. And it's good that they're countering this and they're putting a stop to this transgenderism that's spreading across the country. And if you identify as a different gender, then that's a mental illness, and you know you have to deal with that. It's gender dysphoria, gender identity disorder. I'm not saying that we should be cruel to them, but if you're promoting this and you're trying to spread this, then you're trying to spread mental illness amongst mentally well children. And that's where we have to push back on this stuff, which is what they're doing. But the main problem is that this is all from the urban centers. You remember I said I was a computer scientist. I don't have life skills. I have to go in the urban centers. You go to the universities, they indoctrinate you. They pump out these like brain dead, brainwashed civilians, and they go into the urban centers, and now they're dependent on the state, the city that's telling them, you know, Orange Man bad. If you want to solve this problem, you have to depopulate the urban centers. One way to do that is that, you know, defund the Ivy League schools and start funding the trades. Like the people that are in trades and work with their hands, not only are they more normal to begin with, but they don't need to live in these big cities. They can live anywhere. They could drive to work. That's, I think, where we should focus. And Leighton Gray says, I hereby challenge Scouts Canada to follow suit. Yeah, right. Not for another couple of years. I can't believe what I'm seeing. Every leftist on X is crying about Iran's evil dictators being removed from the earth. Who is this guy? 477,000 followers. Former nuclear scientist for U.S. Department of Energy. And every single one of the Iranian people celebrating and dancing like there's no tomorrow. This has been extremely eye-opening. Dancing in the middle of traffic. It's probably going to get community noted and say this is a video from 2017 or something. I go back to what I said. It's what the Iranian people want. If they want America to bomb and get rid of this regime, they're free people. Well, they will be once the regime is gone. Here's the second one I was going to say. Tulsi Gabbard. I don't, is this her real account? No war with Iran. No war with Iran. Is this really her account? Director of National Intelligence. That's pretty bold for her to come out and say that. Was this? Oh, this is back January 7th, 2020. Somebody reposted. How about now? Glory to Ukraine. Yeah, it's the problem. Like you're on social media, things last forever. Got any updates? This aged well. No war with Iran. Resign now. Yes, Tulsi said no war with Iran. We're still fighting with Iran. We're still not fighting with Iran. I thought she was saying, she came out and said that today, but yeah, that would have been, you can't do that. Your president declares war. I'm not going to play the Trump mat. Scouting America has agreed to enact policies based on sex, not gender identity, following pressure from the Trump admin. No more men and girls spaces. Massive win. This is what I voted for. Man, I love the Americans. Like they don't treat politics like I don't know, some Olympic event every 4 years. They treat it like, I don't know, from practice for the football game. Like they show up every day and they get involved and they never give up. Like they fought for since 2016, and now they're making wins and they're pushing back against the left. The trick now is to keep the momentum going, so that you got to get another Republican president, and you have to solidify this to make it known, like, we can't bring this crap back. The Department of War is not going back to the Department of Defense. Operation Epic Fury is alive. Full mind of the U.S. military Iranian regime. This is not a drill. This is a storm. 2 U.S. aircraft groups launched coordinated Tomahawk missile strikes. I should go see what's happened now. Maybe the country's even surrendered. The trans ideology was cited in the Epstein files. The trans ideology is a psychological operation meant to demoralize and destabilize the nuclear family. Reopen these silos and throw these men in them. They are a threat to public safety. Be careful, Liz. Unless you're in the U.S., you got to be careful with comments like that in Canada.
City, history will remember how you protected us. Hello, my name is Shannon Axe. I am a proud out, openly transgender woman. I am 25 years old, and I stand before you today asking that you would protect transgender women across this city, especially Black trans women and trans immigrant women and trans kids who are ignored, targeted, and left unprotected. Trans women are crying out for justice. We are crying to be heard. We are asking you to do your job and protect the most vulnerable among us.
So she comes out and she does something like she, I don't know what it is, says something like that. And then the other side is going to point out that, so many trans people have killed so many children. And around we go. Focus on the basics. What kind of a world do you want to live in? Do you really want to encourage more transgenderism? Like, do you want 51% of the children to be trans, or do you want 100% of the children to be just rank and file average, normal, ordinary people? This is not normal. This is a mental illness. Is anyone else following this? We just set off World War III at 2 a.m. on Friday night. Massive U.S.-Israel strikes all over Iran, killing thousands. Counter-strikes hitting the whole range of Gulf allies, Kuwait, Qatar, and possibly Saudi. The world is going to wake up to 6 years of news in one news feed. So he walked this back. Just to clarify, I made this tweet at 5 a.m. while playing speed chess, eating matzo sticks, and listening to live updates. I'm guessing it was high. I didn't mean World War III literally. I was being semi-comedically low. He's just walking it back all the way down, but killing thousands. Yeah, no one's really talked about any civilian casualties on the Iranian side. I don't think anyone cares. Even the Iranians don't. As long they're willing to suffer thousands of deaths as long as they get the government out. It's amazing how Mike has turned on the Trump administration. I do know that after he outlived his usefulness with USAID, they just kicked him to the curb. I side with Mike on this one. We shouldn't be thinking about Iran. We should be thinking about, in his case, America. In my case, Canada. It's crazy how Iran's can just slaughter 50,000 of their own people and progressives don't care at all. I mean, if it's true, that's correct. People look the other way. The problem is there's so much misinformation. It's hard to know who to believe, but it's definitely a brutal regime. Yeah. One of their generals was eliminated, directed the massacre of thousands of Iranians in January. This one, World War III warning from Jim Ferguson and then Shannon of Western Standard, or what is he with the Western Standard now? I think he is. He says, settle down. This isn't World War III. Iran will be defeated in a matter of days. Russia is not coming to their aid, nor is China. They have their own problems. We'll see how well this ages. Iranian missiles are hitting U.S. This looks like AI. I don't know how they got such a good video. Iranian missiles are hitting U.S. bases in Qatar. Israel's getting hit now. It's begun. Hey, Grok, which country benefits from the war in Iran? That led to Zionism. All right, let's just see what's going on live. Come on. That's the first one. This is one of the most amazing videos I've ever seen. It doesn't even look away. Good years for life for that pilot. I wonder if that's AI, because after the ghost of Kiev, I don't trust anything. They did not bomb Iran. They waited for Iran's entire leadership to sit down in the same room and then bombed Iran. Months of intelligence, thousands of estimates, intercepts, one variable. The moment the Supreme Leader President gathered in a single case at the same time, that one was... Did they kill the guy? I don't know. Trump is, let's see what Max is saying. Trump is launching another reckless war to instigate a regime change. He used to understand that such military... Is this the one today, or... Yeah, he did one similar a while back. He used to understand that such military interventions more often than not have disastrous consequences for both the population of the targeted country, the American people, and to denounce the warmongers in both the Republican and Democratic parties. But the neocon imperialists have hijacked his government. Yep. And they are putting out the same ridiculous propaganda to justify this war that George W. Bush did when he invaded Iraq. I cannot support the U.S. for once again bombing a country that poses no threat to them. They act as they have for decades, like imperialist bullies who believe that they have the right to do whatever they want anywhere in the world. Canada must remain neutral and stay out of this and other foreign conflicts that do not. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Max, but I mean, it's already started. Where were we? Alex Jones. Trump just committed the United States to total war with Iran. There's a high probability that Iran will activate terrorist sleeper cells. See what Flynn has to say first, and I believe most important is for all Americans to study themselves for a lot of misinformation. Yeah, I agree with that. War is never in any nation's interest. Get to the point. For a minute, consider the lost resources spent fighting in Iraq. Never mind Ukraine and Venezuela still have a naval armada mining this critical part of the world. We also need to consider the response might come from China, Russia, or Turkey, NATO ally. Hopefully this one sits this one out, and is our homeland at risk? That said, a prolonged war is never in America's interest. However, once war is waged, it is an unleashing of emotions that can easily cause it to be endless. This is a serious sentiment. We really cannot afford another endless war or conflict. Therefore, we want to see if our Congress will respond with a full-throated support for our military. We also want them to vote their beliefs whether or not they support these actions. We also want there to be as much transparency. We have far too many problems here at home, and we cannot afford open-ended ventures back in the Middle East. We have to get back to taking care of Americans first. Pretty good statement. Iranian high school students thanking President Trump. Breaking Max Smoke. Saudi Arabia just joined the U.S. in military operation against Iran. Death toll reportedly rises to 40 after U.S.-Israeli missile strikes hit a primary girls' school in southern Iran. That's BRICS news, so that's China aligned. But I mean, you're going to start seeing misinformation from both sides. Barry Neufeld, USS Gerald Ford goes dark. One of America's most powerful warships disappears from public tracking. No longer visible on open source tracking system. Where carriers go silent, it usually means one thing: operational mode. Thomas Massey, I'm opposed to this war. This is not America first. When Congress reconvenes, I will work with Representative Canada to force a congressional vote on war with Iran. Oh, he's killed. Almost certainly. Well, whatever. If the bombs don't get him, the age will. He's a useless guy anyway. In expressing support for U.S.-Israeli attacks on Iran, Mark Carney has entered the annals of suspected 21st century war criminals. There is no basis in law for preventative attacks conducted outside the Security Council. Dude, who the hell is this? Professor of law at Osgood? Do you see what's happening in the world? There is no law. You're lulling people into a false sense of negotiating security through negotiations, and then you bomb them. Iranians, the world is, yeah. Remember that I predicted, what was this? Breaking Iran says Supreme Leader will give a speech just hours after the U.S. is retired. Nobody cares. Iranian state-linked media is claiming the Strait of Hormuz is being closed. The NDP won Surrey Guildford. Commies. Let's see what this guy says.
This has been about Israel.
This guy is very anti-America, anti-Israel. Just warning.
This has never been about nuclear weapons. This has been about Israel's regional hegemony in the Middle East. Israel wants to topple the Iranian regime, period. It has said so. This is not a mystery. This is not my claim. This is Israeli policy repeated year in, year out. The whole idea that Trump is negotiating to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon, that was negotiated. Trump ripped it up. The Iranians have come back every year to say, we don't want a nuclear weapon. We want negotiations. The United States does not accept yes for an answer because it works for the government of Israel.
I'm just going to stop it there. I think Israel is just, I view it as like a military base. It's in the interest of American strategic global dominance. And breaking up Iran helps them accomplish that because, it harms Russia and China. I think we're past the point where if you point out that Netanyahu for the past 75 years or whatever has been saying Iran is on the verge of 1 week away from a nuclear weapon, then he keeps renewing that claim. I think we're past that. Nobody cares. The news cycle is just moving so fast now with social media that it's just, there's nothing you can do. JT, exactly. It's the affront to the truth that is the core problem. I think you're talking about transgenderism. Yeah. There's a quote from 1984. I always forget it. The party will, set the truth or something like that. But they don't want you to believe your own lying eyes. One more godless woman. Transgenderism is delusion. Delusion is a strategy, strongly held false belief that persists despite clear evidence to the contrary. It is, yeah, but they it's a very strong movement that they have. I did one with Esme V, an episode, and she said what they built up, the structures, the protest movement that they built up for the gay rights movement. I think when they did eventually get what they wanted, they're like, oh crap, what do we do next? This is kind of like a NATO or a military organization. When they accomplish their goals, they're not just going to close shop and go away like a Cincinnatus. They're like, all right, what's our next charge? What are we going to do next? And the next one was transgenderism. Menticide, the systematic effort to undermine and destroy a person's values and beliefs as by the use of prolonged interrogation, drugs, torture, etc., and to induce radically different ideas. I didn't know that. JT, AI appears to be starting to depopulate the urban centers. Thank God. Yeah, that is true actually. I was using this. I'm developing a piece of software, and I was using this marketing agency, and I kept throwing money at them, and I'm like, give me wireframes and give me a design, and they messed up so badly. And then I just went over to ChatGPT. I'm like, this is more competent than all that entire marketing company. And yeah, it's going to lead to some initial problems, but it's unfortunate, but we have to go through that. And the education system needs to be reformed so that if we send our kids to school, I don't have children, but if you send your children to school, they have to be taught how to survive on their own. You know, how do you get clean drinking water? How do you purify water? What's the local food that you can eat? You know, local vegetation. How do you build a house? Randy Hillier, he's got a log house on his property. He was talking about this in the last episode we did with him. It's built in like, I don't know, 1860s, 1870s. And he said the people that came over, they built that log house in 1 year, in one summer. And they didn't have power tools. Like, how is it that they could build that in one summer back then? And then right now, like, you want to build a house, it takes like 50 years worth of income to build that house. But nobody knows how to build a house themselves. Forget that. Public education is prolonged interrogation. Children are prescribed SSRIs, antidepressants, algorithms, or torture, etc. It's gotten worse, though. When I went, it was bad back then. There was a little bit of propaganda, but now with these trans ideology, it's kicked into another level. America doesn't pussyfoot around. Respect. Yeah. I think you're talking about Pete Hegseth. Yeah. Those guys, people here at Balls. I'm in Florida right now. Hi, hey, sunshine. Oh my gosh, she means men in dresses. I don't know when that was in reference to. Oh, you mean the person that was screaming at the town hall event? Yeah, that's probably what. You know, if I dress, I'm trying to normalize. They're trying to normalize men dressed in dresses. Freedom Conversation podcast. They believe in cisgender. Everyone is cis to them. That is a major concern regarding children in the grooming industrial trans complex ideology. Yeah, they've created. You know, I use the word normal. So you have normal people, and then you have people with gender identity disorder, which is a mental illness. They don't like that because they have to manipulate the language. Because otherwise, they'd have to go around saying, "Yeah, I'm abnormal. I'm not normal. I'm outside the norm." So they come up with this idea called cisgender. It's a made-up word. The BC Human Rights Commissioner, she came out and she used that after the Tumbler Ridge shooting. So she's a part of this as well. Has anyone checked out the doomsday clock? That's probably past midnight. Deborah, I would like our leaders to do more than play both sides for votes and say it for what it is. The terrorists need to stop disruption in the world, and Trump, unfortunately, will be seen as the devil. I'm not sure exactly what you mean. But yeah, if this goes badly, it's going to blow up in Trump's face. MAGA, hello from British Columbia. Hello, Deborah. All right. That's it. If you guys want to join, I'm doing a live stream with David Gardner at, I believe it's 9 o'clock. Let's just double check. Yeah, 9 a.m. So in about an hour. And we're going to go over this Iran thing and maybe some other news items. And you can catch it on my X account, or you can go over to, I don't know what his handle is, the Freedom Conversation podcast. And he's got a YouTube account and all that stuff, Rumble, Substack. So we'll be streaming everywhere. All right, guys, what's this? Yeah, that's it. Take care, guys. I'll see you guys later.